That's the one that people buys homes at the port and people buys caravans. I went and bought a combine. My name's Ian Connolly, Connolly Farms, Portglenone. This farm was bought by my father whenever he got married back about 60 some odd years ago. There's 3 brothers of us and we split up 30 years ago and 2 of them went to Scotland and I was the one that stayed at home. And everybody went their own road, but we have stayed the best of friends. We were in potatoes up to the year 2000 and we quit the potatoes and went heavier anti-stock and anti-cows. That's what we've been at all our life. We milk cows. Work with store cattle, we grow grain, we do contracting. It's took off brave and quick this last few years, and if you do a good job, they'll ask you back. Somebody else will come on board, and that's the way it's went. Philip takes a lot to do with that, Not there, although I help a lot with it, but I'm mainly with the cows 24/7. He does all the breeding purposes of the cows, and we work as a team.
Phillip Connolly here, Connolly Farms, Portglenone. Melting in around about 400 cows there, 420 cows. Been part of the business now since I left school, so I have since I was 16 years of age. Came home and started working along with my father here. Didn't go to Greenmount or nothing like that there, and just sort of we grew the business, we were sort of, whenever I left school, we were melting in around 200 cows, so we sort of grew it on from that, to where it's at today. And well, I never knew anything else better. I was always going to farm, that was really what always the plan was. So sort of started contracting back, I would say around 10 years ago, sort of out totally on our own. We were helping this and that one back and forth, and bought the harvester, I think around 2017, really to do our own work and that there. And just when it was to come at us with a bit of work and stuff and that, and sort of grew from that, and we just sort of kept going on, and we sort of cover most things, anything from slurry to reseeding land, cutting silage, whole crop, barley, wheat, combining, sort of cover everything that's sort of going, Just sort of thought we could do it ourselves, I was at home now and that there, and we had a kind of wanted work until us and that back and forth, and we sort of asked for a bit more work and that, and we said we'd keep them on full time. And the dairy cows sort of the main enterprise, they've always been here, so they have, the 2 of them have to stand on their own feet, they have to sort of make their own ways to do kind of things. So my sort of role in the business is sort of, could be anything from one end of the day to the next sort of thing, it's the organising everybody where they're going that there, and get everybody away first, and anything that's to be done, I'll stay back, and get all that done first. I do all the feeding of the cattle, all the diet feeding stuff and that there. We have ones that does the milking stuff there as well for us. There's 3 comes to milk every morning and every evening for us. That's split between all our different people, so it is. So the 4 full-time ones, they do the milking stuff as well, where it has to be done. One of them fellas does, Peter there, he does all the rearing of the calves. The fella will be in the parlour, either in the morning or the evening. There'll be some of us there, some of the main people there, just to make sure everything's all right. Anything that I couldn't do, I wouldn't be asking somebody else to do it kind of thing, And to be fair now, the fellas and the girls and that we have with us there, they're more than good. And even in short notice, if you're in a howler out there, you need to pull out, certainly they'll give you a hand, and we're much appreciated for that there from them now, to be honest. We're always fan of machinery, so we're in that there, and we like the fresh tractors and stuff and that, and fresh shovel and that and stuff, and sort of always kept everything sort of up to date and up the sort of latest technology, and working with all your GPS and stuff and that there. Always had an interest in that, Running the class harvester there, it's class 870, running 2 tractors and triple mowers, run a 4-rotor rake, 320S there on the farm there for doing all the farm work, and then with 435 there for doing the contracting, for like say your loading dung, butt raking, silage, stuff like that there. Bale all our own straw and stuff like that there. We grow a couple of 100 acres of crop in the year, so we do between barley and wheat. Most of it sort of goes to the combine. Any grain that's grew on the farm is all kept on the farm. It's all for feeding to the cows, so it is. Most of it's all barley, so it is a bit of wheat and that there, but usually the wheat will go to the whole crop. So with growing your own grain now, definitely it works here. I know it works in this farm. I know, it definitely it seems to work. Dad, he does the combines, so he does. You're not shifting out the combines, he seems to be even happy in that now. So.
Combine is a new haul. That's my pride and joy. That's the one that people buys homes at the port and people buys caravans. I went and bought a combine. That's a good job. That's a good job. There's days now, what was it, a boy told me one day, he said, you'll learn to sleep at night once you drive a combine. And you know something, he wasn't far wrong. I'll tell you now, whenever you're in a field of lying barley, you never lift your head off that rail. But saying that, I wouldn't part it for the world. It's a good job. Over the last 30 years, technology and equipment has been unbelievable. If you had told somebody 30 years ago that you'd be going into a field and you'd map the field out, you'd have laughed at them. I think it's made us more efficient. That's one way and every way. That's been no bad thing. One thing I would say is equipment's getting very, very expensive. Anything we bought over the last 10 years, really in reality hasn't lost its value. But the difference is, over the last 10 years, anything you go to buy has doubled its value. Things has changed greatly, everything. Get into fields, lots and you just press the button, away you go. You do the round the field and then press the button, up and down you go. That's a great job. And that make you a wee bit lazy. That's the only thing I would do. But apart from that, it's a good job. I would say yes, it's definitely made it more efficient. Some fields you get into, you thought the acres was in it and the acres was not in it. And Philip would sow a lot of fertiliser there, till the country. And that's what the boys has found. Maybe he goes to a man and he's 2 bags of fertiliser left, and he said, they not need that. That was fertiliser that wasn't being used efficiently. And I think it's a good job. Technology is a good job. I would miss it now. You don't dwell in the past, you keep moving. That's the way I would look at it. My father would have been a modern man, modern thinking. He always was looking for the next thing, looking for the next new tractor, looking for the next new potato planter. That's the way he always was. It was him that pushed us to where we are today. Daddy always said to us, try nothing for a wee while to see what happens. And he always would have told us, I mean one day us picking potatoes and picking away and that there, and we're talking about buying a tractor and that there. And I was only a young cub at the time. And they stopped the picker. He said, right boys, we're for Kennedy. So that's the time we bought New Hall, Ford. When I bought the tractor and came home now, he said, we can start back to work again. And it was the modern day thing at that time. And believe it or not, I mean the time when we bought our first set of push and pull mowers. Now that's gone back quite a wee while ago. And my father would have been mid-70s at that time. He always done the mowing of the grass. And he said, I'll never fit to drive them. I was going home for my tea and I said, that lever's for the front, that's for the back. So I said, you can try her up and down the field, I had the winding cut. See, after he cut that field, you know what he said to me that evening? Go you home, milk the cows and do the rest. He said, I can mow away. He would have said to me, I wished I'd that 40 years ago. You're always looking for the next new bit of equipment, but that goes the same for anything. You're looking for the next thing that'll do better again. It does save money, yes. New harvesters, new mowers, all that stuff is time saving and stuff and that there. Well, people maybe think it's total rubbish, but I see it as. Whenever you went out to cut grass back 30 years ago, you went out with a 10-foot mower. If you cut down 50 acres in a day, you thought you'd done some job. Now the day you go out with 2 sets of butterflies, you don't drop 200 or 250 acres or something wrong with you. But that's the way it is today. It's trying to minimise things, but maximising out at the other end. I'll tell you something. 35 years ago, we were all at a funeral one day and we were coming home. And we were all home, we're in the yard, and this man's 90 now coming. And he told us, he said, 30 years' time you'll see farms been halved, and maybe halved again. That's what's happened today. Farms is halved. We are farming more ground than we ever farmed, but with less labour units on the ground. Because everybody around this area 30, 40 years ago, all at 25, 30 cows, 15 acres of produce, 20 cattle run about, 20 acres of barley, they were all functioning farms, but they're all gone today. And that's no fault of theirs. That society is putting us. Can we do the same in another 30 years' time? I don't think so. I think as contractors, as farmers, we can't do any more than we're doing. Labour's going to be a big issue for us in the future. It's already here. But if you haven't a good relationship with your workers, they'll just walk. But fair enough, we have that good relationship with our workers, been fair to them and everything else. But I find that farms has disappeared over the years. Sons has disappeared, daughters has disappeared, and we're taking the farms. But I think we can't go much further. That's just quite honest. And I think if every farmer would be truthful, they're the same. We're working harder today to stand still. We're doing more work and not producing any more stuff. If you take it in context with all the people that have stopped, we can't do any more of what we're doing on the farm. I think it's come to a stage that you take the average age of a dairyman or a farmer in Northern Ireland's 58 and a half. In 10 years' time, will I be doing it? Nobody knows. Will I be here? Nobody knows. But I think that all people, all farmers, we can't really do any more than we're doing. It's hard work. We have no more time off. If we hadn't had the technology that we do have, could we do what we're doing? That's just quite honest. You went out 30 years ago, if you left 20 acres of grass in a day, you're some man. If you're not putting in 200 a day, you're doing nothing.
Tractor-wise there, we're running John Deere's there, so are, most of them's all 6Rs, 145s, 155s, mid-frame, you know, with no large, long wheelbase, so we haven't. A lot they work well for us, seem to do well, and we have a good enough relationship there with Stephen Moore, Johnson Gilton, that up there. Never always been John Deere. First John Deere slipped in, I think, in around 2007, and sort of just grew on from that. Look, we've got on well with them, to be fair, hey, and they've done well, and we've got plenty of work at them, and they seem to suit us, you know, so they do now. But service buy-up's the biggest thing, you know. That's what we're sort of looking for, you know. If anything goes wrong, you know, whether it's morning, noon or night, you ring somebody, you can nearly get sorted out any time, hey, to be fair, you know, you're never really let down, or if you need a machine, hey, you'll be pulled out, hey, so that's why we sort of stick with the one brand, you know. It's the same as the GRASSMEN stuff as well, you know. That's why we've always been class, and we're sort of trying to keep it that way. There's always someone at the end of the phone if you ring them, need them, you know. So harvest-wise, we're on the Class 870, so we are. Just finished our third season there. We had two 850s before that, so we had good harvesters. Hey, there was absolutely nothing wrong with them. We just wanted something maybe just a wee bit more power, so we did there. But to be fair now, we're well pleased now with what we want for now. So we have, as for needing anything any bigger, it's big enough what we do, you know. It suits our system well, and that there, it does well for us, to be fair now. Look, we do a good 1,500 acres of our own grass in a year, you know, and we're probably doing our couple or 3,000 in the country for buy, you know, as well. But a wee bit of whole crop and that there, you know, whole crop wouldn't be that big a thing for us, you know. So it's not, some years there's more of it, and some years there's very little of it. It just depends on the season, you know, kind of thing. Here, listen, it was a good enough season this year. Hey, sure, the weather was, you couldn't ask for anything better there this summer, you know. We had a good summer and everything, you know, you get things read up. As far as our machinery and everything, you know, and that there's not the same pressure in the machine, that there, grass is drier and stuff, and that definitely. I would say the contracting helps, you know, alongside having all the fresh kit and stuff and that there, and keeping the harvest and all that there, you know, along with doing your own work and that sort of makes it justify itself. With the sort of amount of cows we run that there, we need the staff and that anyway, you know, with us and that, you know, sort of keeps you busy and keeps you ticking on the rest of the year, you know. So basically the two of them sort of complement each other well, so they do, to be fair now. Okay, listen, the harvest as well, you know, there's always a bit more power. There's many a day you'd like a bit more power, you know, but that's it has to be justifiable too, you know. It does our job, you know. We don't really need anything any bigger, you know. Wouldn't say we wouldn't have something bigger maybe sometime, you know, things maybe change down the line, that maybe if there was more work or something come on or something like that there, you know. But if money was new object, what would we go for? I don't know. Hey, you probably try the biggest thing you could get, like. Slurry outfit there, we're running 12-metre egg quick dribble bar there, 3,500 gallon Hearn tankers we're running, slurry cat Doda pump. Majority of our slurry with all, most it seems to be ferrying now, so it does, to be fair. They're all DCA arms in the tankers. Sort of suits our system well, you know. You're not really, with good plots of land you go to at times, you know, everybody's their own opinion on it, you know. It's nurse tanks or DCA arms, but DCA arms seem to work for us well, you know. For the average size of fields and stuff and that there, it seems to work well now, so it does. Pipe most of the slurry all year round, so that even after the cut society sort of try and keep the compaction down at the fields, you know, with the weights of the tankers and stuff and that there. You throw out a bit of pipe and go on ahead, you know, but I suppose the way the whole thing's going with these low emission slurry spreading rules and regulations and stuff and that there, sort of keeps you maybe on the right side of the law and stuff. So
I think we all do a good job through the farming community. We look after the land, although we're punished. Whereas the government's saying that we're polluting the country left, right and centre, but they tell us 62% of us boys is responsible for pollution in Northern Ireland. I don't believe that. If you take Lough Neagh there for the matter, your agriculture minister's saying that we're responsible for 62% of pollution, that's nonsense. As you guys should know, and I know, and everybody else knows, that I live in Portglenone, and Lough Neagh flows out of the through Bridge, Portglenone, Carray, Achadoo, Coleraine, Portrush, Portstewart. Where does it all go? All goes to the sea. If you take a 2-mile radius round the loch, did you ever see water running up the hill? And I think they would need to take note of this. There's a lot of people not standing up and saying what they should be saying, but I'll tell you the way it is. It seems to be that we're the ones that have made the scapegoat for the government. And that's the way I feel today. The biggest problem we have in this country today is raw sewage. The sewer works today in Portglenone is about 40 years out of date. How many houses has not went in Portglenone and this rush? How many houses have not went in there this last 25, 30 years? They've done nothing with sewer. And that's the same in every village and every town in Northern Ireland today. And that they're still keeping passing houses for the greater good to the community. But they have no infrastructure for the raw sewage. And that is the problem today, it's not us. If you take houses, not there, it's 4 people in the house, they have toilets, they have showers, they have washing machines. Where does it all go? It goes to the sewer. There's not a word said about it. Nobody's saying nothing about it. But they have to realise a wee thing, the government, that over 80% of the people in Northern Ireland is employed by agriculture, directly and indirectly. How many people's not employed in all them sectors? The general public out there has not one clue what we do on a day-to-day basis. They go to Portglenone, they see the food on the shelf, they lift it. But if they meet us along the road to give you hand gestures and everything else, you shouldn't be there. But they don't realise that we work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and we work a 12-hour day on a Sunday, regardless what people thinks. On Christmas morning, everybody's sitting around their fires and their tables and all, farmers are still out there, trying to get rid up for a couple of hours, maybe in the middle of the day, but see the very next day, they're at it again. 365 days of the year. So I don't know, I think people have got it very wrong. I think the Department of Agriculture was there 35, 40 years ago, was there to help farmers. They're there today to crucify the farmers. Years ago, I mean, my father starting off in here, and he got grants for building sheds, and there weren't a query about them, and they get paid for it, and they're wanting farmers to farm. Now the day they want us to stop. But they have to realise a wee thing. What's on the road today of surplus food, that's all that's on the road today. There's nothing left. They can talk about their milk mountains, milk's dropping in price, I understand. They talk about oversupply and demand. But is it? Over half the world's in hunger. So if you take the whole thing into the equation, what is on the road today is on the road, that's it. What we produce today is fed tomorrow. Oh, tractors. I sell a soft touch for a New Holland, but I'm not allowed one. We were always New Holland. Always New Holland tractors, Ford tractors. We were massive for a wee while, quite honest. That's from the 3080s and 390Ts and all that there. Philip was always John Deere fanatic. So back in 2007, it was Johnson Gilton's at that time. I rung John Haggerty one day, I said I'd be interested in the 6430, they were only out at that time. This deal has to be done when he's at school. So he said, that's all right. So I ride up one morning after Philip went to school, we done the deal for a 6430. All the bells and whistles on her. Never mentioned a thing. So we had a TS115 and I sold her at home straight. And I had a Sammy at home and I sold the Sammy. And Philip said to me one day, what are you for buying, Daddy? Or what are we going to buy? I said, I don't know. I said, we'll do it to the spring day. The tractor came in first week of December into Johnson Gilton's in Coleraine, and they rang me to say the tractor was in, and he said, could you not take this home? Because he said, everybody's wondering who's this tractor's for. Well, I said, I'll have to get this home some road that nobody sees me bringing this home. We left it one morning, John Haggerty said, come down and lift her. So I went and I lifted her. Instead of me coming home by Garva and that there, I went by Clough Mills and all around the back roads and come home that road. Jonathan Miller was living across the road at the time, and I put her into Jonathan Miller's shed and they pulled down the door and that there. And that was the beginning of December. I had to keep that there to Christmas Day, so he wouldn't see her. Aye, that was hard, aye. Christmas morning, she was backed into the shade across the road. I think it was only 12 or 11 at the time. I can't remember what age she was. Backed her into the shade, shut the shade door, locked it. She parcelled up the presents, and one of the presents, she put the key in. And Philip used to mow the lawn at that time around the house. He came out, it was the next morning. He thought he'd got a new John Deere sit-on lawnmower. And he went and opened that shade door across the road, and this thing was sat looking at him. And I'll tell you where she went to. We sold that tractor back in 2018, and Eddie Gamble bought her. And I think Eddie still has her. No harm to Eddie, but I should have kept her. I would have loved to have kept that tractor. But you know, you're changing it and you needed money to go towards it. But she was the first John Deere, and that's what started us into John Deere tractors.
Who's the main man? Hey, I get them all the day. They all think they're the main man, I would say.
Our Agriculture Minister, all he's interested in is the environment. He's not interested in you and me or anybody else.
You know, it's new to us, so it'll be interesting to see now in the next year or two down the line what way that goes.
There's a programme on New TV there, they call it Rare Breed. That's what we are. We're a rare breed. There's nobody else who do what we do. That's just quite honest.